gotta kick off the show here.
We're agreeing.
So cleaned up. Welcome, Bills Mafia. You are listening, of course, to the Mafia Cast. Appreciate you coming in and listening. Hey, I'm with my good buddies here, Casey and Mike, and we got an interesting discussion coming up here shortly that I know Casey is super excited about. So that's going to be a lot of fun. First of all, can I just say that intro? My favorite part is Casey's little squeal. That is fantastic.
I did that just for you, Ron.
I appreciate it.
My wife hates it. Let me tell you.
That's my favorite part. Hey, before we get into this, I got to tell you. So the other day, you guys, we were, kind of chatting back and forth about what we were having for dinner. And remember, Mike said something about meatloaf. So we're at dinner that night with my wife, and I said, you know what? You should make some meatloaf. It sounds really good. And she's like, that sounds like a great idea. You really should do that. I'm like, wait, no, not me. So like, all right, here we go. So we find a recipe, and I smoked my first meatloaf, and I just had it again for dinner a minute ago with my leftovers. Fantastic. Really? So Mike, thank you for the idea, putting that in my head to make it, and then my wife making me make it.
It's funny how
I've
it
never
turned
had
like
smoked
that.
meatloaf though. I'm into that. I'm gonna try that out. Maybe this summer.
We should definitely try that this summer. Exactly.
I smoke a lot. In fact, so our oven, it broke down months ago. And I was like, you know what? I don't need an oven. I will smoke everything. I've smoked enchiladas. I've smoked pizzas, hamburgers. I've even done that actually.
Yeah.
I've smoked some and of course smoking my chicken wings. But
there you go.
But let's get into the show. So we've got to talk about this, guys. And I know, like I said, Casey's super excited about it. I'm going to let you start, Casey. What do you think with all this conversation, all this chatter going on about Hopkins?
Let me start off by saying everything that we talked about pre-show. If he comes to the Bills, I won't be like upset or angry or mad. I want all the talent we can get. But I am on team draft a receiver, and Ron, your pushback was, well, we've drafted Gabe Davis, we've drafted Khalil Shakir, but we haven't drafted anybody in the top first round, second round, or third round, for Josh, except for Dawson Knox, for Josh Allen to throw anybody to. I mean, I know, yes, when we traded Stephon Diggs, that was our first round pick. I understand that argument. But Josh has never played with a first round pick. Like, if he has, I think it might be one. But I would rather get a cost control player for the next 5 years who we think is going to be a star or has a severe potential to be a star than sign an aging player who, still probably has 2, maybe 3 years left. But I don't want to pay him as much as he's owed, and I don't want to give up draft capital. Even if it's a 5th and a 6th, we've seen that's where Brandon Beane has been able to make his buck in the draft. That's my rant.
Yeah. No. Okay. First of all, like I said earlier, pre-show, you can still draft your receiver if you want. Take him in the first round if there's one at 27 that's worthwhile, or if Bean can move up and grab Njigbo. I can't even ever say it right.
Jackson Smith,
or Addison or Hyatt or whoever. Even though I think some of those guys you can get probably in the second round, you can still draft those guys. There's nothing wrong with them sitting as the 4th, 5th, 6th receiver and biding their time. Like, who cares if they're a first round pick? That does not automatically make them a starter on this team. And I think McDermott has more than proved that, especially last season with Shakir and multiple rookies, Elam, who sat and, played maybe, I guess the Elam's case, probably 50% of the snaps, whereas with Shakir, probably 30. But That's my thing. If we can get Hopkins, I do think that separates us, or at least puts us back on par with the Jets and the Dolphins. Now, the Jets, we're assuming Rodgers is going over. It sounds like all but a done deal, just working things out.
Nah.
I don't know as far as that goes, but just those two teams have stacked their teams. Casey, you said last week that the Dolphins defense concerns you. Like, they looked really good. We need another receiver that can take some of the pressure off of Diggs, because right now teams can just they double up on Diggs with that blank or I can't remember what the coverage is called now. One high, one low.
Bracket.
Bracket, thank you.
Yep.
And then they put their number one corner on Davis. And I love Gabe Davis, but he's not going to beat a number one corner on most teams. So we need that other guy. And Hopkins may be that guy. And I don't think it's going to cost the team a whole lot to pull that off. They're going to have to work out the financials. I get that part of it. But from what we've seen from Bean and from some of the things that I've heard from Hopkins, as far as he's already said he wants to play for a contender, money's not an issue. To a point, I'm sure it is, obviously. And the Cardinals have, from what I hear, have said that they would take on some of that and pay some of that contract. They need to move him off their books, though. I don't know that the Cardinals are desperate yet, but I think if the Bills can hold out and be patient, the Cardinals are going to get to that point, and we can get a steal, even if it is only 2 to 3 years. Mike, what do you got?
Agree. Well, I mean, Roy's got me thinking here. Kind of puts in perspective a little. Would you rather have Jerry Jeudy or Hopkins? He's younger, but price tag's gonna be a lot higher. Hopkins, if it happens, it happens. I sort of agree with Casey. You get this veteran player in here, and we're in the window, and try to make a run with him. I kind of like the idea of it, but I don't know. I'm still on the fence about it. You gotta give up something for it. I'm stuck on our picks. I'm really excited for this draft and want to see what we can do there. I don't think it's very deep in receiver. I don't know. Not a lot of
that's another issue.
Not very many of them are just standing out. So yeah, he'd be a great addition. I'd say I'd be fine with it. Roll with it. But what do we have to give up for that? This is the question.
I mean, if it's Ed Oliver and one of our 2 fifths, then yeah, I mean, do it. You can't hate on that trade.
No, no, not at all.
But if they're,
I
mean, they've already said they're not going to get the 2 and extra that they're looking for. So if it's, like I said, Ed and a 5th, or one of the 5ths this year and a 5th next year, or a 4th next year, then yes, you do make it. But that's got to come with at least a minimum 2-year commitment, with him knocking that cap number way down. And in my personal opinion, I'd want him to go and work in the slot, because he has such great hands and he's really good at reading the field and getting open against zone coverage, because he doesn't have the burning speed that he used to anymore. So he's learned to adjust his own game and to find the soft spots in the zone. And that's what Josh Allen could really use, kind of like a Cole Beasley type, but a little bit more athleticism.
Yeah,
he would have been able to jump and get that ball that Cole missed.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we saw he can jump with a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just envisioning a world where you got Josh Allen, James Cook, Diggs, Hopkins, Shakir, Davis, Knox.
Sounds sweet.
Yeah. I mean, on paper, and you've got these new guards that we've brought in here, which we'll talk about one of them here in a little bit, but Connor McGovern signed a week ago. You've got some guys to push that interior offensive line now. And I do believe that the Bills will still draft an offensive lineman or 2. Where they get him, though, that's completely up in the air now. I've said for a long time, first round. That might not be the case now.
I'm still with it.
Me too. I want this offensive line to be best in the league. Don't even breathe on our guy.
Yeah.
J17, but I don't know that that's where they're gonna go with it. But yeah, I don't know. Hopkins opposite Jeudy, or in the slot with Shakir, maybe Davis, whoever. Go out there with 4 wide, and then maybe you motion Cooks into the 5th receiver. Who's gonna cover all that? There's not a defense or secondary in the league that can stop that.
Yeah, and I don't think we've seen Gabe's
we'll
full
just throw
potential
every
yet.
play.
I'm hoping.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would just.
Go ahead.
I think I guess I'm just thinking more so long term because I'm thinking just mainly about the number and the money, and just thinking how much I would love to have a cap controlled player is on the right. We don't know what he's going to be, but obviously all the potential is going to be there, and just the name Njigba is stuck in my head. I mean, he's just the one that I would love to get in the first round, and it'll be hard to get him. We'd probably have to trade to late teens, early 20s to get him, but I would rather have guaranteed 5 years of that, like I said, cost controlled, and the ceiling. I mean, there is no ceiling for something like that because you don't know what it can be. We know what DeAndre Hopkins' ceiling is. I guess I just like the unknown and the money aspect of it.
When you're trying to get a Super Bowl, though, I don't want any unknowns. Like, we thought we knew Gabe Davis was going to be a great number 2, and that didn't work out so well. We knew Isaiah McKenzie was going to be great in the slot, and that didn't work out.
I don't know. You better not be speaking for me.
A lot of people were like in love with the idea of McKenzie being the full-time guy in the slot. And he had a great camp in preseason too, and he looked the part then. That obviously didn't work out. Let me go back to the Judy thing. Judy's on last year of his contract, probably going to demand $20 million plus. I don't think he's worth that personally. Extend him. Can we really pay 2 receivers $20 million, Allen?
No way.
We cannot. To me, Jerry Jeudy, yes, he's younger. He just, to me, hasn't really done a whole heck of a lot. For all the hype in the draft, where he came in the draft, I think it was a first rounder. I'd have to go back and double check that, but he hasn't lived up to that. And so it's almost like kind of like the Ed Oliver deal. Like, we love Ed Oliver, and he showed up at times, but for where we drafted him and what we're paying him, he's not the guy. He's not consistent, and I feel like Judy's the same way. Could he be more consistent with a actual legit quarterback that he hasn't had in Denver? Yes, that's possibly part of it. But give me some Hopkins. We can still draft a receiver in the first round if you want.
Go on, Ron.
But this isn't going to require us to use a first round pick to get him. The whole issue with DeAndre Hopkins is not what we have to give up to get him. It's the financial part of it. Like, how much was it going to cost us? You could front load a contract so you can pay him in his prime year, which would be this year, maybe next, and then take the rest of that and spread it out over a 3-year contract instead of just the 2 years like it currently is. There are ways that Bean can maneuver a contract to make it work and make it cost effective for the Bills and still get that receiver in the first or second round. But I would rather see the receiver in the second round just because of the depth. But
I just wouldn't be there. There's no point to draft a wide receiver first round if you're not going to play him, in my opinion. There's certain positions that you have to play. And
at this point,
that's wide receiver. Yeah, it is.
At this point,
why do you have to play him?
Because you want to talk about like getting better and like building rapport with Josh Allen. You can do all that in practice to a point, but you can never replicate game speed. So
I'm not saying sit him on the bench for the practice squad. He'll get some playing time, and maybe he outplays Davis and Shakir and gets out there full time. I don't know, but
that's the whole thing. He would have one chance, basically one, maybe 2 chances to get on the field, and that'd be beating out both or one of those guys. And maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But if he doesn't, I would hate to see that kind of investment just sitting on the bench for as much as he would be. At that point, I would rather just wait on a wide receiver and take one in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. Because then what's the difference if you're waiting for him to? If you don't think they're ready now, then okay, so you're waiting on it. So why spend that much more capital and pay them that much more and draft them in the first round rather than wait and take them in the 4th, 5th, 6th round when you're paying them pennies on a dollar compared?
Well, like you said,
do the same thing.
You're more likely to have a stud if you draft a first round guy. Who cares if he doesn't play the first year that much behind Diggs and Hopkins and Davis and Shakir and whoever else? Okay, I think Mike, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just Ronnie, you're jumping ship on me here. I thought we were both team linemen in the first.
We
Lineman
are,
or
but
linebacker, but-
I'm making a point here to Casey
Yeah,
that you can still
right.
get your receiver in the first round if you want.
You could, but I don't see that happening with the recent signings, and especially if Hopkins comes here.
I agree.
I just don't see that happening at all. And maybe we get lucky, and maybe one of those third, fourth, fifth round receivers, maybe he's a hit. But who knows? The future will tell.
Well, I think the wide receiver class this year is similar to the offensive line class. There's a lot of talented players there, but they fall more in the second and third round category as opposed to top end talent that we've seen in years past with the receivers. So I'm okay with taking a Jalen Hyatt in the second round, or even taking a stab at somebody like Bryce Wheaton in the fourth, fifth round.
Yeah,
get a couple of them if you want. I don't care. And I saw somebody on Twitter commented one time, because I did an article about the receivers not too long ago, and somebody commented on that saying that if they were a GM, they would take a receiver, at least one receiver every single year. If you have the picks and you can do that, I think that's not a bad idea. Same thing with offensive linemen. I would take an offensive lineman every single year.
I believe the Bills have taken almost every single year since Bean's been around. They've taken a wide receiver. Shakir, Marquez Stevenson, Gabe Davis, and Isaiah Hodgins. I mean, he still takes them. He's trying, but he's not putting the higher capital investment into it with the higher picks in the draft. I just think it's time to do that. I mean, Diggs is his contract. I mean, I know that we just signed him and he just reworked his deal, but that just means we're going to pay him a little bit more the next couple of years. And eventually, sooner or later, he's going to be going downhill. And Gabe Davis has to be paid next year. And DeAndre Hopkins, same as Stephon Diggs. I'm just thinking 2 years down the road, man, I mean, we might not have any of these three players. I mean, I think at best we have Gabe and Stephon, but at worst, Stephon's like, nah, I'm done because we won a Super Bowl. D-Hop's like, same, and Gabe, we just can't afford him.
But if we win the Super Bowl, then we're okay with that, right?
Yeah, then we're okay. Then we're okay with that. And who cares? Let's go be the Rams and F them picks, bro.
I do. So in terms of that, I do like the way that Brandon Beane is building the roster because it does feel like he is planning for the long term. But just like last year, we went out and got Von Miller. I see this a move for getting Hopkins, kind of the same thing. Like, we're right there. We are so close. And I'm not one of these that believes that our window is closing. Like, we only have 2 more years of the window. Yeah. As long as Josh Allen is playing, that window's open, period. But
a lot of guys that want to play
with the weight. Yeah, well, that's true too. People want to play with him.
Yeah.
So we'll move on from because I know Casey wants to move on from the
so
Hopkins.
bad.
It's giving him anxiety.
Yeah.
I'm shaking.
I'm excited about the idea, and I hope that it comes to fruition. Many times we have heard names linked to Buffalo, and it doesn't happen, but we shall see. But let's get into. So we're in the middle of free agency, week 2 here. Pretty active week for Brandon Beane and the Bills, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, they all came kind of in a wave. It seemed like a 2-3 day period that it just seemed like, all right, bang. Look, we got another one. We got the receivers that everybody was asking for.
Yeah, it was like every other day. But like last week, I don't know, it seemed kind of slow. And then here we are.
Yeah. Yeah, last week we got McGovern, and that's pretty much it.
Pretty much.
Well, signing Poyer, which was huge, in my opinion, the biggest free agent move of the offseason.
As far as new possible starting, players. Yeah.
So we got Deontay Hardy. Well, let's just start with him. Deontay Hardy. What are your – Michael, start with you. What are your initial thoughts on him as far as his role on this team?
I mean, it's going to – I don't expect to see a whole lot out of him this year as far as being, one of the starting receivers. I mean, he's more of – I can see him being more of like the return guy. I mean, but Hines ran back a couple of them, so
this is true.
The back blocker, yeah, but and hopefully he makes memories more than just the butt punt. I hope that motivates him a little, and we see some big time plays out of him. But yeah, more of the return guy, not maybe not filling the hole that we need at receiver. Maybe that's more Sherfield. But man, he's got some speed. He's got some hands. I mean, I was talking about him a little bit last week, but
yeah, I don't mind the Hardy pick.
not at all.
He was a former All-Pro as a return guy, and I know Nyheim Hines filled that role really, really well. But with Hardy in the mix, I think we're going to see Hines a little bit more so on the offense,
Right,
and more involved in that. So hopefully, with Sherfield, there's one thing that I found out about him that I was not aware when we first signed him. He is PFF's highest rated run blocking receiver in the league.
I mean, sweet. We see Gabe Davis. We see Gabe Davis motion into the backfield and be a great run blocker. If we can get two of those guys, completely disguised look with both those guys, and say Stephon Diggs on the field with James Cook and Dawson Knox, and get those two to both motion into the backfield to block. Hell yeah, who wouldn't be excited about that?
Yeah, maybe
he's
Sherfield
got
and
good
Gabe can
size.
battle out a little, create some competition.
You say that. Do you guys think that both of these signings are maybe just one, or do you feel like that they're challenging Davis indirectly?
No.
Do you think the team's comfortable with him as number 2?
No. I mean, for as far as to who's on the roster currently, I mean, yeah, and they're like, hell yeah, he's number 2. But I mean, I think they would kind of like when we had Emmanuel Sanders. They liked swapping in and out Gabe and Emmanuel, and it seemed like Gabe might have been a little bit more effective because the spotlight wasn't purely on him as the full-time number 2 receiver. I think they're looking for somebody like that to be able to interchange with Gabe, and not have to play every snap of every drive.
All right,
Hopkins. David,
Ronnie, I will walk off the show.
I hope you try.
David Edwards signed today, actually, and of course we got McGovern last week. So these two guys are gonna, presumably, will push Bates and I don't know if Saffold's been signed yet or not. I don't think so.
No, he hasn't.
Probably won't be. But you still have Ike Bucker. There's a couple of other guys that they could battle for. But what do you guys think about the two new guards?
I mean, Edwards is a Super Bowl guard. I mean, what more does it say about that?
True.
I mean, it made it happen for Matt Stafford, who now isn't doing the greatest. Now, after the fact.
Yeah.
Man, I'm all for it. I'm on board. I mean, they really know what they're doing. I think, O-line, the more and more as free agency goes on, we're slowly building that line, and then maybe, the draft, we can focus on something else. Also the same as receivers, with receivers. So I don't know. I'm one of them crazy guys that think we should go linebacker or edge first at this point.
We could have just stopped at crazy guys.
You said a while ago, though, that you were on team offensive line.
I am. So. But now we are signed. We do need a tackle. That is huge. And there is some tackles that I'd like to see first round. But yeah. There's definitely some holes there. Guard, I don't think we're worried at guard right now.
And that's a good point too, because
slowly
Osiris Torrance has been
checking that off the list,
He's been mocked to Buffalo quite a bit. Yeah. And with both of these guards now, I don't know if that's necessarily an option, because Torrance, kind of the thing with him is he's a guard. He's not a tackle. He's not somebody you could kick out and play there. He is strictly an interior guy. Whereas somebody like Anton Harrison, the Alabama guy.
Oklahoma.
Is it Oklahoma? Yeah. Okay.
Are you sure?
He is a tackle. So if he's there, do you go that route and challenge Spencer Brown? I know a lot of people are really down on Brown. I'm not ready to throw in the towel on him yet personally, but I think some challenge wouldn't hurt either.
I think that's where we're all on board. None of us want to give up on him yet, but like this is the year for him to prove himself. Like if he doesn't drastically improve this year, this will be the year that Bills Mafia's like, all right, like we like you, but like you kind of suck.
It's going to be frustrating, all year if Josh is running around again for his life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it makes sense to get somebody in the draft to push Spencer Brown. I mean, just because we're not at this point, it doesn't seem like
that is one big freaking paperweight.
Yeah.
Jason, than my desk.
Jason, say it to his face. I dare you.
So
competition.
Yeah, and since we're talking about the offensive lineman, Quisenberry was offered. I don't believe he's signed yet, so it's not official. But if he does, that's 12 linemen currently on the roster now. And they could possibly draft a couple more, but with 12 on the roster already, maybe you guys know how many they went into camp last year with, because I know you can go in to camp, I think, with 90 or 91 players. I don't remember how many of those were offensive linemen, though, but I don't see them really going in with too many more than those 12. Do you?
I see him going in with 12, but I see him. I mean, I think they're going to be like, all right, battle it out. Like, let's go. We are going to find the best 5. And Ronnie, like you said, you want these guys to stay in their one position and not keep moving around, and these guys being swapped in and out due to injury, which nobody can control. But
right,
I think they are looking, all right, this is our 5. We are going to stick to it, and that's it. Yeah, I believe Buffalo only keeps 9.
Yeah, when they cut down to 53, yeah.
Yeah, I think, and I'm pretty sure that only 8 of them are active, because Tommy Doyle was inactive a lot before he got injured.
So I think I just brought this up already, but I want to put it back up here really quick. Taking a tackle in round 1 probably means they're giving up on Spencer Brown. I don't think they'll do that yet. That's a good point. As much as I've talked about taking an offensive lineman in round 1, I just don't think it's going to happen now. They brought in 2 guys to push the guards in the interior there. And to this point, if you draft a tackle round 1, you are kind of telling Spencer Brown, hey, you're on notice, bro. And almost going back to what you were saying a while ago, Casey, if you draft somebody in the first round, they're probably not sitting. I don't know if that's necessarily true with the Bills and their staff, because, I mean, we've kind of seen that. But
on defense, we've never seen it on offense. We've never seen it for defense. We've seen what they do with first-round players on defense. They typically start them, except for Kyer Elam. I mean, Jermaine Edmonds, Ed Oliver, Trey White. I mean, all those guys Greg Rousseau. They were all starters from day one. But they earned.
They do a rotation. I don't count anybody on the defensive line as a starter because they rotate like 33.
Get off your high horse. He's a starter. But we've never seen what they do with a first-round offensive rookie because we've never freaking had one. So we don't know what they would we don't know what they would do with it.
Well, to the point of the defensive starters as rookies, all of those guys you mentioned, they didn't have a choice. Like, we weren't a good team when they drafted those guys. They're going to plug them in. We're a different team now. We're not the same team where we don't have any talent when we're building the roster from scratch, essentially. So, again, I don't know if that would necessarily change anything or not. We all clamor for Shakir last year to get more playing time, and he just wasn't. And none of us can really understand why. I've heard some people comment that he struggled with the offense a little bit, but 2, which I've actually heard that from some other Nyheim Hines, in fact, on an interview, he said the playbook is not easy with the Bills. And so maybe that's something that he struggled with. I also heard he struggled with run blocking. But I feel like we didn't run enough, so why does it even really matter? We need somebody out there to move
maybe
the
that's
ball.
why we didn't run enough, is because of that.
It's all Shakir's fault.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been their MO for the last 3 years, though.
But
That's been their MO for the last 3 years, though, as far as I don't say no run game, because the run game is produced. I mean, they average 4 to 5 yards a carry.
But it's gone downhill.
The last 5.
Kind of. Right?
No, it's not the same.
It's
Well,
the numbers have gone downhill because they don't do it as much.
right. That's what I.
That's just the correlation. It's just as if it's just as effective as like when Josh got here, but it's not. It's just not as used. It's not used as often.
Yeah. So we're gonna move on to the next thing here really quick because there's a comment in here bringing up some linebackers. So that just happens to be what we're going to talk about, linebackers. So thank you for the segue, guys. This one's one of my favorites. Jack Campbell. I wrote about him yesterday, and I led off the article with just the name alone. It sounds like a linebacker. Picture that name in that old NFL Films voice. I can't do it, but Jack Campbell.
He sounds like he belongs on the 85
Perfect.
Bears.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? And he
Okay.
is kind of fits that almost old school mold of a linebacker, like downhill, violent hitter. He does have some coverage skills, but he's more of a run defensive guy. And I know that the defense that we've run in the last few years has been that, 4-2-5 stuff. So he doesn't really kind of fit that mold. But McDermott has also come in, and we know he's taking over the defense more than likely. He hasn't made an official announcement, but that's what it sounds like. And he has said he wants the defense to be more aggressive. And Jack Campbell isn't a very aggressive hitter. Like, he hits the hole. He doesn't mess around. He comes with violent tendencies. And I love him. There's some other guys, too, we'll talk about. But, Casey, I'll start with you on the linebackers. Jack Campbell, any others that really stood out to you that you would maybe consider as a first round or second round guy?
As a first or second round, I mean, as like your article stated, I mean, I think there's like three guys that you could consider for the first round. That'd be Trenton Simpson, Jack Campbell, and Nolan Smith. I know there's no way Nolan's going to be there. Like, I haven't even really looked at him too much because it's just there's no way, in my opinion, unless something drastic happens and he somehow falls or we decide to trade way up for him. It's just, to me, it's a pipe dream. So I've been really looking at Jack Campbell and Trenton Simpson. Jack Campbell, and like, he just seems like like you said, the prototype middle linebacker. And weren't we all clamoring that like Tremaine Edmonds wasn't a good like run stopper? Like, yeah, he was very good in pass coverage, but everybody was complaining. He can't stop the run. He makes these tackles 3-4 yards down the field.
Yeah.
So isn't that something that we would really, really want as a fan base to get what we were asking for? And that's somebody who can stuff the run at the line of scrimmage and has really good feel for that instead of making those tackles 3-4 yards down the field. We do have an all-pro linebacker, Matt Milano, who's very, very good in pass coverage. And Tremaine wasn't amazing at it when he first got here. I mean, yes, his first game, he had a freaking interception, which was one of two that he had in his entire career with us. But I think you could teach Jack Campbell. I mean, you could really teach him up how to play coverage well. We saw he was working with Luke Kuechly, which has ties to Sean McDermott. I mean, I think that might be big in Sean's eyes. But my personal favorite linebacker out of this, I've been clamoring for him since like the whole college football season, is Noah Sewell out of Oregon. I think he can be the absolute steal of the draft. And you can get him in like the late third, like maybe late third, early fourth. You'd probably be safer going like to the late 20s in the third round to get him. But I think same with Jack Campbell. I think he can just be an absolute monster. And we see the NFL bloodlines run, and the NFL runs in his blood. I mean, look at his brother Penei. He's deemed one of the best tackles already, and he's still on his rookie contract. So I don't know. I think Noah I would love to see Noah in the third round for us. I think it would just be a perfect steal. Mike?
Well, after reading up what Ronnie wrote, he kind of had me sold on Nolan Smith, but now Casey's got me thinking that he might be a little out of reach. I have been stuck on Trent Simpson like forever, and I don't feel like he's out of reach, and we could just move up a little bit and get him in the first or second, maybe, depending. But that's who I'm stuck with.
Simpson.
Yeah. I mean, he's flying around the field. He's fast. He hits. He's getting in the backfield. He goes from one end of the field to the next and stopping the guy at line of scrimmage. We're talking about how, maybe he's not the coverage guy that we want, but he's fast. But he can cover some ground.
If he messes up, he'll at least be able to catch back up to him.
Yeah. But him reading plays and stuff. I was watching highlights earlier today, and man, I just fell in love watching him, and I feel like he could really get after it. I love the speed. I like Jack Campbell too. Maybe a little later if we don't go first with a linebacker.
Yeah, Campbell, you might be able to get in this. Well, I've seen some mocks where he's going in the first, early second. So
yeah,
I would say you got to be like 38th latest to get Campbell.
All right,
because someone's going to trade up for him. If you don't, if he falls at the first. Yeah, which I've been saying all freaking long to drop back out of the first round if we're going to take a linebacker. Drop back to 38 and get 4 more picks for the guy, including the same guy you wanted at a cheaper rate.
Yeah. I'm going to jump off track here for just a quick minute because I noticed some of the earlier comments about Spencer Brown. For the record, I still have 100% faith in Spencer Brown. I do think he just had a down year. I'm not looking to replace him personally. I think the injury did slow his development. So I think and I hope that he's going to be fine. His rookie year, he was good. And, you would think that they would progress. But I think the injury had a lot to do with that. And I still like him a lot.
That's why I really want a linebacker first.
Well, and so I was going to ask you this question because, Casey, you brought up taking a Sewell in the third possibly. Who do you want at first then? Or if you had your choice, if Bean called you up, say, hey, Casey, who are you taking?
At 27?
What are you telling him?
I'd say trade down. Because for the positions that we need, there's going to be players that are there in the mid-30s in the second round. If we're looking at maybe Anton Harrison falls or that tackle out of Ohio State, my boy Matthew Bergeron is going to be sitting there in the second round, and so you take Bergeron with our original second round pick, and we take Jack Campbell,
play tackle,
or Trenton Simpson in the early with that second round pick that we traded back for, and now we've got another extra fifth or maybe an even extra fourth this year and next year. But we're still getting the exact same players that we need at a cheaper rate.
What do you think about tight end?
I don't think
in the first.
Oh my God, no! You don't pay knock then draft a tight end in the first. You do not do that. And I also
if they want to run 2 tight end sets, then why not?
I love Quentin Morris. I think he can be very good in this league. But also, if this tight end class is as deep as everybody says, then why would you take one in the first? Why wouldn't you take one
of the better ones?
Well, if you can get one in the second, third round, why wouldn't you do that?
I mean, you can get a receiver in the second or third round, so why wouldn't you do that? And get Hopkins?
We're not going to do this. If you bring up DeAndre Hopkins, I'm getting off the show.
There are some of these tight ends. Some of them are massive. Like Darnell Washington is huge. His average draft position, if you're looking at PFF, is around the 50s. But some of these other guys, Michael Mayer, Luke Musgrave, Sam Laporta, I'm hearing a little bit about. Some of these guys are being compared to Travis Kelce, like that type of ability. Not obviously they're not. Who knows what they're going to become. But if you can get somebody who's potentially like a Travis Kelce or that level of a tight end, run 2 tight end sets. The Patriots, I mean, Brady made a living off of that early on in his career with Aaron Hernandez and Gronkowski. But so if you got Diggs, Knox, DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Mayer, Mayer's probably not going to last to 27th. Well, he could. His average draft position is 28, so it's very possible. But to your point a while ago, if some of those positions of need are not there, we know that Brandon Beane likes to go for best available. He's mentioned that many, many times. And if the best available is Mayer, why not?
Just take Bijan at that freaking point.
And he's not going to make it.
Just take Bijan.
No. He's not. Just stop with the Bijan.
Just take Bijan. You do know You do know if he's there, he will be the pick, right? Like that's almost a lot guaranteed. If he's there, he will be taken. If Bean is true to his word and he says best player available, he will be there, and he will be taken.
We got some serious holes though. More needs than that.
I don't think we do now. The
You don't think we
linebacker
have
one-
bigger needs than running back first round?
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah.
Then running back, yes. I'm just saying that as a
But if we're-
whole, the roster, Bean has done a pretty good job of filling some of the spots. You got 2 new offensive linemen who, in my opinion, are probably going to take over as the starters. I like Ryan Bates, but I think Edwards is going to push him out of there. You've brought in 2 new receivers to help with that depth. I know they're not the big flashy names, and maybe we get Hopkins, and then you're definitely going to be okay there. You got Poyer re-signed. You've got Benford coming back from injury, Hyde coming back from injury. The secondary may actually be arguably the best secondary in football now with all that talent and depth.
Oh yeah.
We don't know when Von Miller's coming back, so maybe you go edge. And I know Bills Mafia is going to have a freaking heart
Will
attack if
Anderson.
that happens. But
If
Yeah, Mike,
If
Will
somebody-
Anderson, the guy that's going to go 3rd in the draft.
well,
hey,
somebody
he
like
fell to me in a couple of my mocks.
like
Turn off the public.
like Simpson, Trenton Simpson, or is it? Yeah, Simpson. He's got that 4.4. I think it's 4.49, 4.4, 4.3, something like
4.43.
that, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Speed. I mean, he could be a huge edge rusher. Maybe they do go that route, but I don't know. I just don't know where they're going to go in the first round anymore. And if he stays true to his best available, it might be a tight end.
I like the
Or
idea
they-
of getting
I will puke.
Trent Simpson. You don't want to. You said don't want to throw a rookie right into linebacker, middle linebacker, or quarterback in the defense, like you said. So he plays behind for a year, to get up to speed. But a
Or, I
serious
mean, if
hole
they get
there in the
somebody
defense,
like-
we got to fill. It's bad. I'm really worried about it.
Well, and that kind of brings me to another question. So you guys, sounds to me, especially you, Mike, you're not comfortable with the current answers that are on the team with Bernard, Dotson, and Spector. Casey, I know how you feel about Spector, but do you guys think that any of these 3 guys could fill that role? Obviously, they're not the physical specimen that Edmonds is, but can they adequately fill the role, or do you feel like we have to draft somebody to fill that spot?
I don't think we have to draft anybody. I think I feel like we have 3 different types of players that are competing for the same spot. It kind of seems that way. It seems like Spector is more the prototypical middle linebacker, and Dotson's kind of more how Tremaine was, just in play style, and then Bernard is more like a Milano type linebacker, fast, kind of played that safety hybrid, the Buffalo nickel in college at Baylor. I just think everybody's like, oh yeah, what about Terrell Bernard? I was never high on the pick last year, and it was one of the very
Nobody
few
was.
times when I was like being WTF are you doing? But I would love to see Spector get that opportunity. I watched him at Clemson. I think he played so well, and like I said last week, he led the league last year in preseason tackles. Again, that doesn't happen by chance. You have to have talent. You have to be able to read an offense and react quick enough to get to that ball. I'd really love it. I know it's a 7th round pick trying to beat out a 3rd round pick last year, but look what Benford did to Elam. I think we can all admit that Benford probably beat Elam last year for that and deserved that starting job. But Elam's 1st round tag, I think, kept him in the game. So I think that I think Spector would probably have the best chance.
And I'm glad you brought that up as far as the Benford versus Elam argument, because a lot of people were, and kind of to what you were saying earlier about first rounders, a lot of people are like, that's your 1st round pick. He needs to be on the field. No, he doesn't. If he's getting outplayed, play the guy who's outplaying him. I don't care if they're an undrafted free agent. Put him out there. If the 1st rounder is not ready, they're not ready. Like, picking them wherever in the draft does not equate their success, period. So
this is a comment I love.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on.
Brown,
Hey.
Sidney Brown.
Thinking for the future.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah,
something we could do later rounds, right? We're not.
He looks
you would
like
have to get in the second.
that's a second round pick.
Yeah, for sure. Somebody else brought up another point in here in these comments that I lost it already, but moving and Milano to middle linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you do that, and then you go and draft somebody like Simpson,
Perfect on the
linebacker?
outside.
Yeah, I mean, then you can utilize him kind of the way the Cowboys utilize Micah Parsons. Just go get that quarterback, get after him, do your thing. Bean has already said they have no plans at this point to move him. But if you get into camp, OTAs, preseason, and those three, Bernard, Dotson, and Spector, are not getting it done, I don't think that McDermott would hesitate to be like, Milano, take over. You're the new middle linebacker. We'll plug in. We'll figure out the outside spot, with whoever else is left. But and then
I don't think that there's a chance that it even happens. I think there's no reason to move an all-pro player because you're struggling at another position. You figure out that position and you keep that all-pro player there, and that's what Bean was saying. There's no way they're going to move that because then you're changing two positions on defense when you don't have to.
Kind of like they were doing with the offensive line for the last few years.
Yeah.
Just bouncing people all over the place.
Hey, man, health and suckiness. That's what happens.
Suckiness.
And you can do that on an offensive line when there's 5 of them and you just keep trying to rotate and figure it out. But not when there's only 2.
Yeah,
looking thin.
The way the offensive line has been the last few years has just been frustrating for me. Jimmy, so Newsom to Oliver? No. Outside of, I'm sure everybody has seen the IG comments from him and the posting of the song lyrics and all of that stuff. Who knows? Like at this point, and I look at my phone constantly, probably every 5 to 10 minutes, looking for news and nothing yet. I told the guys this the other day. I text Casey and Mike and I was like, I just have this feeling that there's going to be a wide receiver trade. Bean is going to pull it off. He's going to get us a big name receiver. He's done it twice already with Kelvin Benjamin and then Diggs. Obviously, the Benjamin thing did not work out. Lions fan here want to trade for Oliver a second.
Take him.
Round.
Take him.
Do it. For second round? Yeah.
Dude, I'll throw in Keyshawn Johnson on top of it just to make myself feel better.
For second round, yeah, I would. Gosh, I hate talking negatively about Ed Oliver, but he just has not gotten it done. And for $10.7 million that they're paying him this season, and being a top 10 draft pick, I'm ready to.
They pay him too soon.
Love him.
Well, and to this point here, worst case, Oliver balls out, and we think it's a big contract next year, and then we're kind of in the same boat that we were with Edmonds, right?
Yeah,
we would. I don't think there's, unless Ed takes a pretty cheap deal, he's not on the team after this upcoming season.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
The
thing with Oliver is he's a good player. He could make a lot of noise in a game if he has the right people around him. When Von Miller was on the field, when Daquan Jones was on the field, when Jordan Phillips was on the field, when all those guys were playing, Oliver was pretty good. He was making some plays. Like that Thanksgiving, he was wrecking the offensive line. But when it comes down to him and he has to be the guy, he can't do it. And the Bengals showed that. They just took him completely out of the game. Like he was non-existent. He might as well have been sitting on the bench.
Oh, trust me. We know. It sucked. We know. I don't know. I loved Oliver. I loved drafting him. When I started hearing about him down at Houston, I started looking into him and I was like, he's freaking awesome. Like he is it. He could bull rush anybody. But he was also playing in a lower conference. He probably deserved to be at Alabama, but was overlooked because of size. And he played like he deserved to be at Alabama. But he just hasn't panned out in the NFL. We've seen players like that all the time. Just not be able to do it consistently.
Yeah, he's a good rotational piece.
Yeah.
Really good depth piece, but not for $10.7 million. That's the problem.
No.
Yeah.
Not when you can sign your entire draft class with that one contract.
Yeah, exactly. So let's move on to the next thing here really quick because we're actually getting kind of close on the time already. But just going to throw this out there. I know a lot of people have talked about not taking a running back in this draft, especially after signing Damian Harris. But Buffalo did visit with Spears. They met. They actually went to lunch. They put him through a personal workout. So there's obviously interest there. I haven't seen a whole lot of him other than the Senior Bowl, and he looked really good in the Senior Bowl. So what do you guys think about Buffalo potentially taking another running back this year, whether it's the third, fourth, fifth, whatever? Do you think that they should or will take another running back again?
I mean, the three of us were in constant contact during the combine, and I kept telling you, I was like, look at Tajay Spears. I was like, look at it. Like he looked big. He just looks like an NFL running back. I'd love it. And I would. I mean, that would push. It would be a battle between he and Damian Harris for that fourth running back spot, I think, or third running back spot. Or if Hardy beats out Nyheim Hines for that kick for both returner roles, and they're like, hey, we got this rookie, we got our power back, we got our satellite back with James Cook. They're like, we got to let you go, Hines. I know that he reworked his contract in order to stay with Buffalo, but that doesn't always mean that you are 100% going to be here. I'd love it. I would love Tajay Spears. Now that we don't necessarily have to take a bulldozing running back, it opens up the ability to be more – you can play with that class a little bit and kind of pick and choose the players that they like.
You don't think that they might just keep all four running backs because we are losing Tywan Jones probably. He's 35 years old. He has not been re-signed yet. We've carried four in the past. Maybe there's room on the special teams for somebody like Spears for this season because Harris is a one-year deal. Hines, I think, is a 1 year as well. Correct? Maybe two?
I think it's a 1 year because he had 2 years when he came over here.
So Cook is the only one that's under contract after next season. So I could see them taking somebody like Spears, and maybe he could contribute somewhere on special teams as a gunner replacing Tywan Jones. I would not mind seeing him in a Buffalo Bills uniform because he did a 4.4, an unofficial 4.4, I think 7 at the Tulane Pro Day the other day, about a week ago. And he's 5'10", just north of 200. So I'm going to make this comparison, not saying he's physically compared to these guys, but Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, Thurman Thomas, all those guys were 5'10", 200 pounds. So he could definitely play at this level physically speaking. He's not – I'm sorry, Isaiah McKenzie, but he's not 5'7" and 175 pounds. But there's one other thing. Oh, yeah, this one here. This is true. I've heard this a few times now. Buffalo seems to really, for whatever reason, gravitate towards those Senior Bowl guys every year. And like I said, Spears was one of those guys that was there. I don't know what his draft projection is.
I was just going to ask.
Like third round. See, now that's where
is it that early?
We're coming back. It's like late third, early fourth, because it's really hard to get him in these mocks unless you trade up or he somehow falls. But that's where it falls into.
Just stop.
Are you going to draft? Are you going to spend a third round pick on a running back that only plays special teams as a gunner? Because we would have our two returners with Hines and Hardy, so he's not going to be a returner. So he'd just be a gunner. Do they want to do that? I mean, prepare that much for the future? I mean, I would really roll my eyes at that. I would fully
running back. I agree.
I would fully expect one of the current running backs, either Hines or Harris, to be cut if we draft a running back, or if we draft a running back before, let's say, the 5th round.
Yeah,
which doesn't seem unlikely. There's a couple other running backs too. If we missed out on Spears. I know you're a big Sean Tucker fan. Is Hughes.
Yeah.
And I like Roschon Johnson since the combine. I thought he looked really good.
He's been around.
He's got some size and speed.
Sean Tucker at the pro day ran the second fastest 40, like in the draft class, like that would have been at the combine. He had the most bench press reps. He had the longest long jump. He had the second highest high jump. This dude tested off the charts. I'm telling you, if we can get him, guys, I mean that I will be ecstatic. He is lightning in a bottle. Just get him the ball and let him hit a hole and watch him go.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against it. I'm with you guys though on the. Let's not do it before the 5th round. I think we
No.
have other.
Well,
other
that's where
needs.
Tucker is like he's late 4th, early 5th. Like before 130, he's getting picked around like 110 to 120. So, but moving up those couple spots, it really wouldn't take all that much.
Right.
Yeah,
somebody mentioned earlier in the comments, we do need a safety, I think, for the future or long term. Hyde contract runs through next year. Poyer's is 2 more years. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they go ahead and extend Hyde 1 more year just to keep those 2 guys together and kind of ride off in the sunset together type of thing. But we need somebody to groom for that. Would that be Sidney Brown in the 2nd round? I don't know if they would trade. I mean, they could not trade, but draft somebody in the 2nd round with the idea of playing them in 3 years or 2 years. I don't know. Since we're talking about the draft, this kind of came up. I was thinking about this. You hear it all the time, how GMs always talk about, we draft best player available. But, I mean, if you've got Josh Allen and the best player available at 27 is a quarterback, you're not going to take a quarterback. And you can say that about a lot of teams. If you've got Dallas Cowboys or Tony Pollard, or you've got, any of these great wide receivers or whatever, that's not always going to be the case. And so I put this question up on Twitter on a Twitter poll, and I was actually kind of shocked at the results. 52% of the people said best player available, 48% said draft for needs. I was surprised by that, by how close to 50-50 that was, because you always hear about everybody saying, it's got to be best player available. I wanted to hear you guys' thoughts. What doesn't make sense?
It just doesn't make sense to me. Like you said, if you got Josh Allen, you're not drafting quarterback. I think we got some serious needs here. And it's not like, I don't know, like Bijan would be best available. I don't think we need that.
We don't need that.
But
I would say if Robinson is there, 27 is probably what they'll do. I think they would draft him. I personally hope they don't, because we don't need it. In this league, in this day, you just don't need a running back like that anymore.
Trade that pick if he's there to a team that would need him.
Could do that. You would basically be essentially trading Bijan Robinson. You might be able to get a decent mid-round, mid-second for him if somebody's willing to jump up in front of everybody to grab him.
Right.
But,
Roy Collins.
What do you think, Casey?
Sees it my way.
I mean, it really depends. To me personally, it's what position do you need? Do you need an offensive tackle? Like bad, like you clearly don't have. Like, do you not have a right tackle on the roster currently? One under contract.
Right. We need a linebacker more.
Then go take one. But we have prospects at linebacker, so which can warrant not taking that at pick number 27. I can understand that, because if Bean's comfortable with it, then I'm going to trust him that let these 3 guys battle it out and just let it go. And if it doesn't work, then all right, let's go into the draft next year. No, we're going to take a linebacker. But if it's somebody like, I don't know, if you have to take if you don't need a corner, but there's a Tre'Davious White there and you already have a Tre'Davious White, you pair them. You do what you can. You might as well, because you never know what's going to happen with somebody like like I said, Tre'Davious White. Yeah, everything. Yeah, no kidding.
What I said is the best available player for us, the best available player at a position that we need
that we need. Yeah.
So what do you think the give and take is? So if we're picking 27, do you think that GM looks at him like, okay, everybody that's within 5 grade value up or down? Or do you think they're looking at maybe these are the only 3 guys I would take at this position? If one of them's there, I'm grabbing it. If not, I'm doing something different. How do you think that GMs look at that and manage that?
Again, I think that deals on how badly you need what position and who would be there. Like if he has Jack Campbell rated as an end of the first round linebacker, then take him. Like it's a position of need. And like we want him, he'd be the BPA. But if he's not, and you're like, okay, he's not the best player available, but you're like, all right, we could get a nice little haul for him and trade back, then yeah, you kill two birds with one stone. You trade back, you get the player you want, and you get more assets. But if you need if you need a quarterback, no, it doesn't matter what else you need or who you think is the best player available. You take that quarterback first overall, just like the Panthers are doing. They might have had, and everybody's saying Bijan Robinson's a top 3 prospect in this draft overall, but because of position, he's falling in the draft. You're not going to
because they're not drafting the best player available.
Yeah, I mean, you're not. Yeah, it's best. It's BPA by need.
Yeah, I'm going to just throw this out here about Robinson. Here's the thing: if we gave him the ball and if McDermott and Bean came out and said we're going to use this guy 15 to 20 times a game, by all means draft him. But that's not our offense. We don't do that. We don't really throw it to our backs that much either. So, honestly, I don't even think he's going to be available at 27.
No.
I just don't. And there's a lot of people that want him, and I get that. I understand the attraction to him. He's a phenomenal player, and a lot of people are saying he's the best thing we've had in the draft since like Barkley. So I get all of that, and that's one reason why, again, I don't think he makes it to 27 anyways, because you got teams like Seattle who picked a 20 ahead of us. There's like 6 or 7 teams ahead of us that need running backs.
Look at the Eagles, who have 2 top 15 picks. You know, they would, if Zeke decides not to go there and he goes to the Jets or the Bengals, hell yeah, look at that. That is a pure luxury pick for them at this point. Now, I know they've lost weapons, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, but I mean, a team that runs it like they do and as often and as well as they do, hell yeah, you go out and you get the best running back prospect in 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm like, yeah, let's get Robinson, but we're not. That would be like the Chiefs drafting Bijan Robinson, who hands the ball off probably maybe less than we do.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me to pick somebody who you're just not going to use that much at that spot because that's not your scheme. We're going to get out of here in just a minute, but one last thing I want to throw up here because, linebacker roster, biggest hole, right tackle, more important, roster construction, get a real first rounder, improves the team more. I've been going on and on and on about offensive line, make that offensive line better and better. At this point, I don't think they're going to go O-line in the first round. I would not be shocked if we trade back. And I wish we had more time to talk about this. Maybe we can do it next week, but I would not be opposed to a tight end if somebody like Michael Mayer is there. So we'll leave it at that. We'll talk about that a little bit next week. But for the Mafia Cast, Casey, Mike, we are out of here. You guys have a good one. We'll see you next week. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.